Iran urges the international community to put on trial those who have provided the regime of former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein with chemical weapons during the Iraqi-imposed war on the Islamic Republic in the 1980s. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif made the appeal on the anniversary of the 1987 chemical bombardment of the northwestern city of Sardasht. The attack killed scores of Iranians and injured thousands more. Zarif said the international community should take responsibility over its inaction against crimes committed by the Saddam regime. He said Iran is following up the case in international courts. The top diplomat also called for the complete destruction of chemical weapons across the world. He noted that the Islamic Republic is one of the main victims of weapons of mass destruction. Families of Sardasht victims still urge the international community to bring the main perpetrators to justice. However, the international community has so far failed to take heed of their demands. International human rights lawyer Edward Corrigan says the issue of the Iranian victims of Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction reveals the West's hypocrisy when it comes to chemical weapons.
Chemical weapons are universally condemned. They're restricted, if not banned outright in international law. But there is a degree of Western hypocrisy. The United States is probably, I think, is the biggest holder of chemical weapons on the planet. Other European powers, I suspect the Soviet Union also has chemical weapons, and they, of course, don't use them. In fact, the Nazis had large stockpiles of chemical weapons during the Second World War, but they didn't use them because, of course, they feared retaliation by the British and the Americans using chemical weapons against their cities. So even the Nazis did not use chemical weapons, which is an interesting point. There's a long history. In fact, Britain used chemical weapons against the Kurds in Iraq in the 1920s. It was Winston Churchill was the one that authorized that. And of course, the people who supply these chemical weapons are really the criminals. But when we look at that, it's the government of the United States, the government of Britain, and possibly some other Western powers who had the technology and, of course, want to sell these weapons to the Iraqis, and they were urging Iraq to attack Iran. I'm glad that Iran has taken this to the International Court of Justice. But do I expect that the American government officials and leaders and the British government officials and leaders who sold the weapons to Saddam and provided the technology to turn themselves over? I know that's not going to happen, but I think it's an important symbolic statement. It does expose the hypocrisy of the West.